I'm very happy to see Kaladri after many, many years. It's actually very rare that we've come together. But now I think things have changed because now he has his Giri Govardhan there, and we're going to be getting things for him soon. So
try and do a little service for you too. Well, I was, there were two times where my service with Prabhupada was very personal and very bittersweet, and that was the first time. And as he said, carrying Prabhupada and lying on the floor next to him and having him call out your name as if he was dependent on you to take him somewhere. It was, there's him, the founder Acharya, on the Vyasa-san, delivering Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Dharma discourses, and then there was Prabhupada in the bed asking you to take him to the bathroom or asking you to put him in. When you heard his voice in that state, as he said, he just seemed so fragile. It was such a different. It was such a different aspect of Prabhupada that you felt, so mixed feelings about taking care of him, and when in fact he was taking care of us and giving us an opportunity. And then of course I was with Prabhupada at very close to the end, and he was in Juhu, and I came for certain New Vrindavan businesses, and Tamal Krishna said, no, you've got to take care of Prabhupada. So I had the night shift with Prabhupada, and then of course we had that fateful meeting where Prabhupada talked about he knew his health was dwindling, and he asked everyone to come into the room, and there was a couple of GBCs and sannyasis, and he asked, what shall we do? And they said, Prabhupada, we'll take you to the best doctors, and we need you to carry on Lord Chaitanya's mission. Wherever we have to do, let's try and get you healthy so you can carry on. And he shook his head and he said, well, let me think. And they all walked out, and I was serving him. He said, what do you think? And I said, Prabhupada, I'm just an intruder here. And I said, but it seems to me you're waiting for Krishna to decide. And what better place to decide than Vrindavan? And Prabhupada said, yes, thank you. And the next day he convened us all and said, I've decided to put my faith in Krishna and Balaram and not the doctors. And at that time we took him to Vrindavan on the train. And as you said, he was only taking grape juice and Horlicks at that time, was all. When we came to Vrindavan, then he asked me to make some mung water for him to see if he could recover. And so we made some mung water, but Prabhupada said, it's not working. And so being with Prabhupada at that time was bittersweet. And there were happier times when Prabhupada was leaving for Kumbh Mela. When you start talking about serving Prabhupada prasadam and waiting for the bell. He was leaving the next morning for the Kumbh Mela, and Prabhupada asked me to make travel prasadam for him and his team. So whenever I came to visit Srila Prabhupada, I would bring a little container of New Vrindavan ghee. And so I started, so this was in Juhu, and it was late at night. He would always have the big industrialists come in and sit, and this was before the big temple was built. So Prabhupada's quarters were in this back apartment building. It was full of renters, which you couldn't kick out. You had to make arrangements for them. So he's speaking to some gentleman there, and I'm sitting and listening, and Prabhupada turned to me and said, have you started? And I said, Prabhupada, you're leaving early in the morning. I wanted to make it a little later and fresh. And then he looked at me, and I could understand he wanted me to get started. And his kitchen was right next to the little sitting room. It wasn't a big apartment. Everything was jammed up. So I started cooking the samosas and the kachoris. And so he talked longer, and it's late at night. And so, the fragrance filled everything. And so they all left, and Prabhupada said, let me taste. So I went into his room. So I put a kachori and a couple samosas. Now, the The samosas we make at New Vrindavan were not like the meal on a bun that you get now. They're not those big things. It's a little delicate pastry, and it's flaky and it's a different. And that's of course what I was taught and how Prabhupada wanted it. So I bring in a couple samosas and a small kachori, and I go back to cooking the rest of them because he wanted to take a bag full for this, secretary and the sannyasi. So, as he said, when you're in there cooking, you're waiting for the bell to ring, but you don't want the bell to ring too soon, otherwise it means he's not eating what you made or he didn't like what you were making. So I'm waiting a couple minutes and I'm cooking more and I'm waiting more and there's no bell and I start dancing, and then the bell rings and so I come in and pay obeisances, and just like he said, he looked in the bowl. That's the first thing I did, as I looked on the tray and the tray is empty. And Prabhupada looked at me and he said, "One more samosa, please." So that made my life. And so I gave him the samosa, and then I helped Hari Sori packing up. And then the next morning, it was early, very early, like 4 a.m, I had to take the train. And so he came out, and I was carrying the suitcase, and Prabhupada said, "Yes," he said, "these samosas," he said, "this is our standard for our organization." But like you say, he's just reciprocating with you, and he's making you feel like you're of some value, and he appreciates what you're doing. And Palika was there, and he was turned to her and said, "Yes, this is the standard for our movement." So you get those sweet moments, and then of course you also get a little bit of the other side of Prabhupada, the little hut stuff.